Hello everyone, Lawrence Fleming here again. I am going to be traveling for the next 3 days. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a video out. This is again one of those obligations that I had to do that I committed to a long time ago. I'm going to have to go down to Miami. I'm working a panel, a Star Trek panel, at the convention down in Miami, SuperCon. So if you guys want to see any of that, leave me a note down below and I'll try to get some of that recorded. I can at least do that. I'm hopefully going to have time to record, but I don't know. We're not staying near the convention center. We're staying about 30-40 minutes away, which means I can't just go back to my room and record. If I find a place, I'll do that. All right. I did want to talk a little bit about the fig tree generation. Are we concerned that maybe we're past that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a couple of verses about that, and then I'm going to come back to my main topic today. We're reading, parables. It's called the parable of the fig tree. Jesus is talking, so let me just read the verse and then we'll talk about it. Now learn this parable from the fig tree. Again, Jesus is talking. When its branches already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So you also, when you see all these things, we're talking about the tribulation, the coming of, all these things towards the end. This isn't the rapture. We're talking about when Jesus is actually coming back. So when you see all these things, know that it is near, at the doors. Surely I say to you, this generation by no means will pass away till all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away. They're going to be destroyed. But my words will by no means pass away. Okay, so I think, because it follows in line, he's talking about in 24:15, the Great Tribulation, in 29, the coming of man, the sun will be dark and the moon. Those all line up with Revelation and Daniel and that with his second coming, not the rapture. I don't know how this next part fits in here. I don't think this is the rapture. This might be something else. But of that day, no one knows the hour. That, I believe, is the second coming. But as the days of Noah, they're eating and drinking and all that stuff, giving in marriage. And then it comes down to 40. 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and one left. It could be the rapture, but I'm not convinced. Because if we turn over to 25:31, when the Son of Man comes in his glory with all of his holy angels, he will sit on the throne of his glory, and all the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. And he will set the sheep on his right hand and his goats on his left. It might be that. I don't know. I don't know why he would be talking about a second coming and just throw the rapture in there and go back. I don't think Jesus talked about the rapture. He's talking to Jews. Okay. And then if you want to know about the generation time frame, that's in Psalm 90:10, and I'm just going to read that. The days of our lives are 70 years, and if by reason of strength they are 80. So there's everything that you need to know about the fig tree generation, 70 to 80 years. We're past that for the beginning of the tribulation. I think we can go to 2008, 1948, add 80 years to that. We can go to 2008 for the for the return of Jesus. It's not talking about the rapture. Everybody was trying to associate it with that because Matthew talked about those things there, but it's the second coming. All right. Well, what I want to talk about now is the guy who has many names, the Antichrist. The Antichrist is, well, anti could mean a couple of things. Against or opposite. um, opposed to, or what I like to think of him as, a fake look-alike, better known as a cheap knockoff. The Antichrist is a cheap knockoff of Christ. He's going to try to imitate Christ. If you know what knockoffs are, I had a couple of examples here. Let's say women want to buy a Gucci handbag. Those are going to be expensive. I don't know what they cost, $200, $300, $400, $500. I don't know. It's the name you're buying, and it might be spelled G-U-C-C-I. Okay, that's Gucci. A knockoff is going to be made out of cheap materials, not well sewn together, not well made, probably won't last long, but it's going to look like the real thing, especially from a distance. And they might spell it G-U-C-C-H-I, because technically it's not the same. They didn't steal the name, so it's a knockoff. Same thing with, men might have a Rolex watch, R-O-L-E-X. Well, the knockoff might be spelled R-O-L-Y-X. And it will look like it, but it won't have the same good handcrafted material inside. And certainly the jewels on it will be fake if there are any. And they do this with clothing. Clothing can be very expensive, and you want to buy name brand clothing a lot of times. So what they do is they put their own label on it that's cheap, whatever their brand is. They ship all the stuff in the United States, and then they send them to a reworking mill where people will take the original label off and sew on a famous name brand label. It's not made by them, but somehow they figure out a way to get the labels in the country separate from the material, from the clothing, and then they put the label in them, and then they sell them. They sell them at flea markets and all kinds of stuff. They make a lot of money. It's a big racket. Billions of dollars are stolen from companies doing this. Those are cheap knockoffs, and that's what the Antichrist is going to be. He's going to be directed by Satan. Satan's the puppeteer. The Antichrist is the puppet. But when you think about it, he's not really going to be a cheap knockoff from the point of view of, the Bible says that Christ was a common-looking person, common-looking man. Nothing extravagant. He didn't have, blonde hair and blue eyes or whatever you want to come up with your image. Look at some of the pictures that we have painted by artists all around the world. He didn't have any of that. He was Hebrew. But in any case, he wasn't anything special to look at. Of course, he was God, but he wasn't special to look at. He didn't come down here for his appearance. I don't know what the Antichrist is going to look like, but I'd be willing to bet, a month's wages that he's going to be good-looking, sophisticated, suave, easy talking, but powerful. Kind of like the way Hitler was to the people. He could draw an audience of thousands of people, and they'd be on their feet cheering for 2 or 3 hours when he would give a speech, because he was that good at it. He was when they talks about many antichrists have been around, well, he was probably the last big trial one. Satan perfected him. God allowed him to do it. The only good thing that came out of Hitler was the fact that we have a Jewish nation now because of the way he treated the Jews. That's the only reason that they got a country of Israel put back together, because they were embarrassed that they let it happen under their noses. They were also feeling sympathetic, so that's why they have a country of Israel now, founded in 1948, May 14th. 2 years after the war, but they had to have time to get over there, find the prison camps, clean them out, and hear all the horror stories. Even Russia voted for Israel because of it. Okay. So we're talking about the Antichrist being good looking. He's probably going to be a Muslim. And the reason we say that is he's coming from the Roman Empire, the old Roman Empire. Well, the Roman Empire was vast. It went all the way, it encompassed Turkey into the Middle East, down into the northern part of Africa. That whole area was the Roman Empire. And most of that is Muslim now, especially from Turkey on around, but all the other countries. If you're looking at Greece and Turkey and Spain and France and even England, they've allowed fleeing immigrants, fleeing from Afghanistan and Syria and any place where there's fighting going on, because there's two factions of Muslims. So they're fleeing there in droves. And when they move in and set up and they become part of the community, they have lots of babies. For the Europeans, the average number of children is 1.9 per family. For Muslims, it's like 5.9 per family. They're creating 2 times, 3 times as many. And that's the average, so there's obviously more and less, but they're going to eventually outnumber. In maybe 20 years, they will totally outnumber all the other inhabitants of those countries. So there's plenty of places for the Antichrist to come out of. And I'm sure that he is already in one of those countries that he's going to come from, working behind the scenes. He may be working with part of this one world government. He may be one of the puppeteers. He may be one of the leaders in the country that we just don't recognize. But he's going to try to copy Jesus Christ. He's going to get shot. His head's going to be wounded, probably shot in the head. He's going to die, but he's going to come back to life. He can be resurrected. Jesus was resurrected. Not the same way. He's a cheap copy, don't forget that. But he's going to try to copy everything. He's going to unite, excuse me for hitting that. He's going to unite the Muslims and Israel together so that they're going to be able to build their temple. He's going to get a 7-year agreement together. A peace treaty, which he's going to break. But once the temple is built, and it's quite possible that if he gets the peace treaty together with them, they may build the temple alongside the Dome of the Rock and not have to tear it down. Because remember when John is told to measure the temple in his visions? And he was told to just measure the temple, but don't measure the court area because the Gentiles have taken that over. The Muslims would be considered Gentiles, along with the rest of the Gentiles that are going to be in the area. So they could be right next to each other, in which case they don't have to tear it down, which would make it easier to get an agreement. Remember, the southern Muslims want peace. It's Iran and their friends that don't. Is this going to happen before or after the wars? I don't know. But the Antichrist is going to be doing all this, which means we won't be here. That's the bottom line. The angels are holding the 4 winds back, so they're not moving as fast as they'd like. And we're going to have to get out of here. And before the Antichrist takes over, my guess is Satan's going to be down on earth. And they're right next to each other. We've read them before. It's either they're going to be the third of his angels cast to the earth, and he comes with them to direct them, or he gets kicked out of heaven right after that. One way or the other. He's going to be down here with a bunch of angels, and he doesn't like Christians, and he's going to try to kill us. And that would be the reason for the rapture. So the Gog-Magog war, where does it fit in there? Don't know. There's no real timing on it. The good news is that the timing for the desolation of abomination happens midway through the 70th day. The 70th week, excuse me. Which means there's 3.5 years left that the Antichrist can rule. But he's going to be ruling under some very bad times. So he's really not going to be able to do what he wants to do. All the bad things are going to happen during the second half. And again, we won't be here. But it's going to happen. And then God is going to cut things short, which might also work with that fig tree generation. We're not sure how short he's going to make it. If it if he doesn't come back and get us out of here in time to where it pushes off into 2009 or 29, it still won't matter, because if he may cut it short, the calculation may be 29, but he may take a year off. As I said, if he didn't cut it short, no one would live, and there's got to be a remnant that lives. They're going to be in the millennium. So it's all there. It's all very easy to see that we're very close. We're within, well, if you figured the 70th week hasn't happened at all, we're 7 years from the end. I happen to like the idea that Brenda Weltner teaches, where some of it, or if not half of it, has already happened. Some of it during the time of Jesus. It's possible. We don't know when the beginning is. We know all the pieces that are going to fit together, but we don't know the timing. We're not told the timing. Okay, I got a screaming baby coming in behind me, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Keep this short anyway so I can get it uploaded in time. Probably within a week I'll have a satellite system worked out. I'm working on that now. God bless. We'll see you in the clouds.